hello and welcome to another episode of the final round with me at Black Gatsby. This is the second take. I was listening back to the first one and there was a weird hissing, squeaking sound in the background. It's pretty annoying. So if I found it annoying, you probably would as well. But yeah, we're gonna kick off with probably the biggest bit of news in combat sports this week, which is Ronda Rousey getting knocked out by Holly Holm. Obviously, has tenuous link to boxing in that Holly Holm used to be a professional fighter. She was also on the end of one of the most vicious knockouts herself. So, but yeah, we're just going to look at the Mayweather angle of it. Obviously, you know, Ronda Rousey has a massive problem with Mayweather. And Mayweather finally responded. Obviously, 50 Cent said that on his Instagram that Mayweather told him to post a meme. Mayweather's denied that. And then today, speaking to Fight Hype, he's basically said, people lose. If you need any help with your boxing, give me a shout. And everyone's like, oh, Mayweather's so nice, he's so magnanimous and all this stuff. But I think people are missing the point that he's basically digging her out. He's taking a piss out of her. Like, obviously, he's basically telling her, people are saying that you could beat me in a fight. Look what simple boxing did. So if you need help, come give me a shout, basically. And he's dug her out, and I think she's going to be embarrassed about it as well. Obviously, she flew back to New York, to America today. Was ashamed to show her face, that kind of thing. But yeah, we'll move on. So we're gonna go. We haven't recorded for a little while. The first thing I want to talk about is Bradley Rios. Timothy Bradley's first fight in a little while. He fought Brandon Rios, knocked him out, which was a massive surprise given that Bradley hasn't knocked no one out in about 4 years. It was a weird one because obviously it was Bradley's first fight with Teddy Atlas. Teddy Atlas hasn't done much in the game recently. Probably most known now for his commentary on ESPN Friday Night Fights. But he got in Bradley's corner, gave one of his famous motivational speeches about being firemen and we're here to put out fires, and clearly it worked because he's gone and knocked out Brandon Rios. But I think Brandon Rios said it himself, he was done, he was a shot fighter, and I think that was clear for everyone to see. He could not do anything with Timothy Bradley. I think it makes Matchroom's attempts to bring him over to fight Kell Brook look even worse, given that Matchroom have this propensity to turn around and say anybody that any of their fighters beats suddenly makes them great and makes them a superstar. Eddie Hearn's massive spin doctor, he's a super bullshitter, but he does a great job as a promoter. And he probably would have spun it that, oh, you've just beaten someone that's done super work at 135 and 140 as well, when in reality, Brandon Rios is just shot. He's been shot for a little while. Obviously, people read a little bit much into his win over Mike Alvarado, but yeah, he has been shot. It's a mad one for Bradley in that it probably puts him in a driving seat to fight Timothy Bradley. I don't think Bob Arum wants Bradley facing, doesn't want Terence Crawford facing Manny Pacquiao. There's been a lot of talk about that fight, and obviously that fight pushes Crawford into superstardom, but I think it's a lose-lose fight for him, do you know what I mean? Because Crawford beats him, he could go and become a superstar. He's the man that beat Pacquiao, but he could also be like Pacquiao has been beaten a couple of times recently. His heart's not in it. Obviously, I think he's going full time into politics after this fight. This is his last fight. He's retiring, and if he loses that fight as well, it completely derails all Bob Arum's work. I think Bob Arum's trying to build Crawford up into the next big face in boxing for America. Obviously, Mayweather's gone. Andre Ward's injuries have derailed him. So you're looking at there's a vacuum in the space at the top. A lot of people talking about Roshi Warren, Errol Spence Jr. You've got a couple faces that could make that leap up. But I think Crawford's probably your most likely. Obviously, he's got a massive fan base back where he's from, Omaha, and he's had Warren Buffett at his fights as well, that kind of thing. So he's getting there. But I just don't think it would be. I think it'd be smarter to do Bradley, given that Bradley's fought Pacquiao before. It would be a rubber match. Obviously, he's 1-1, Pacquiao's 1-1. A lot of people didn't think Bradley won his fight anyway. So coming off a win, get him into that fight. I think now we're going to look at Anthony Collar's fight this Saturday as well. A couple good fights this Saturday. We'll start with Anthony Collar. Collar's is a weird one as well, simply off the strips that Matchroom tend to bring people over to the UK, get them to fight their fighters, and if it's anything close, then it's pretty much thought the home fighter is going to win. I'm not saying Matchroom pays their judges or pays referees and all that nonsense, but the home fighters tend to get away with, or get a touch. And this time was a bit weird because Collar's probably one of the most likeable stars, and he's come through and he's got robbed. You look at it, he had a really good sob story, and I think it captured the attention of the public in that his house got robbed, or his next door neighbour's house got robbed. Being a good Samaritan that he is, he's gone across to go and stop it, got hit with a brick, and I think he did his head in his ankle, and they're talking about he might not ever box again. Even this week, see pictures of him giving money to homeless people out in Manchester, and I think everyone he's made to look who he is. He's actually genuinely a nice guy. A couple of people I know met with him, spoke with him, that kind of thing. He's genuinely a nice guy, but there was a genuine push to make him seem that nice guy. So it made it even weirder that he got robbed on the cards by the judges. But yeah, second time round, can he beat Dale Perez? I think you got to be worried about this one. Obviously, neither are going to want it to go to the cards. Dale Perez simply because he's in his opposition country, and Crawler because what's happened to him last time. I think a lot of people thought he won that fight. I thought he won that fight as well. But I don't think, I'm a bit worried for him in the sense that you see it happen quite often. The champion will fight someone first time, look a bit ropey, might win it, might lose it. Second time round, he knows what he's up against. Second time round, he gets the job done. Look at Froch and Groves. First time looked ropey, got a touch in by Howard Foster's stoppage. Second time right, didn't leave no doubts. Knocked Groves clean out, and I think Groves has been pretty much on the slide since then. And you've got to worry that Dale Perez could have figured where he went wrong at the first fight, come and do it again this time and do it properly. You'd hope Crawler does it because, like we said, Crawler's a very likable guy, but you've got to be a bit worried for him. I'm going to lean with Crawler as a United boy as well. Obviously, I support Man United, so that's not the sole reason. That's a dumb reason to pick him, but I think Crawler might do it. But I wouldn't be surprised if Dale Perez got the job done this time. I'm hoping Crawler does it as well. And then we're going to move on now to the big card on Saturday, the one everybody came to see, basically. We've got Miguel Cotto versus Saul Alvarez Canelo. Now, both of them have looked dynamite recently. Obviously, Cotto is the lineal middleweight champion. He beat Sergio Martinez for that honour. Canelo's been out here beating up everybody that basically got in front of him since Mayweather. Obviously, he's had a couple ropey ones. You got to look at his fight with Island Lara and that kind of stuff as well. But Canelo seems to be a blue chip prospect. Do you know what I mean? You look at him, reasonably good looking. He's got the female support like Oscar De La Hoya did, obviously. He's Mexican. That makes him like one of those, he's a fighter that people want to see in terms of like he's all action. He can box as well as fight. And I think Oscar De La Hoya is really, really behind him. And I think he's pushing for him to become his next big star kind of thing. Obviously, taking a lot of shots at Mayweather in terms of how he fights. And you don't have that problem with Canelo because Canelo does come to fight, but he's smart about it as well. I think he's learned a lot from that Mayweather loss. And you're probably going to see a bit of that on Saturday. But we'll start off with a bit of history. Obviously, Cotto started as a 140 pounder junior welterweight. Moved up. Canelo had fought at welter, but he's more or less campaigned at super welter, junior middleweight, done a bit at middleweight. But obviously, this fight here is for the middleweight title, which is ridiculous given that they're fighting at 155 pounds. You either fight at 160 or fuck off. But yeah, it's going to be a weird one as well because you have to look at the whole Puerto Rican Mexican war history between them. This is a rivalry, probably one of the greatest in any sport. Obviously, you've got America versus Russia in your flipping ice hockey and your basketball, and then you've got like England, Argentina, England, Germany when it comes to football, soccer, whatever you want to call it. But Mexico versus Puerto Rico in boxing is ridiculous. You've got your Salvador Sanchez versus Gomez. Like, there's been tons of them. And I think Cotto's been involved in one of probably the best ones as well in terms of his fight with Margarita. And I think that's going to have quite a big bearing on this fight as well because that was probably Cotto's last big... Well, it was his first foray into the Mexican Puerto Rican thing. And I think a lot of people, it's weird because in Puerto Rico, they really, really love their boxers. I think boxing is probably one of their biggest sports. Obviously, you've got baseball out there and you've got, I think some people follow football, but I don't call it soccer. Follow football, but I think boxing's massive out there. And if you look how they treat their fighters, a lot of people say Cotto isn't as loved as others out there. They say, one, if you look at how they treat Felix Trinidad, for example, he's like a god out there. But they say, one, Cotto isn't as warm and as friendly as Felix Trinidad was. But two, a lot of people hold it against him how that Margarita fight finished in terms of him taking a knee. And basically, people say he quit. But if you know the history of that fight in terms of Margarita likely having plaster Paris in his hand wraps, he basically beat Cotto into submission. And you can call it beating into submission, but if someone's hitting you with plaster of Paris, I would like to see anybody else, stand there and take that punishment. Margarita has rocked up it was last week, I think it was, giving his two-piece on the whole thing, basically saying that Cotto can't beat Canelo. He's backing his fellow Mexican. He says Cotto hits like a girl. He said Cotto's scared to face him, and I think it's just an easy one to get involved in because it's Mexico versus Puerto Rico again. And he's basically saying what happened with me and Cotto is going to happen with Canelo and Cotto as well. He's funny because basically when Cotto beat him, obviously they had a rematch. Cotto beat him second time around, I think it was 2011. He was really humble and he showed humility and he was saying, "Oh, Cotto's a nice guy," and blah blah blah. And I think Cotto's never ever forgiven him. And Cotto said he can go to his grave without getting a rematch with me. I'll never give him. I'll never put food on his plate again. I just wanted to beat him, get my victory over him, and then leave it at that. I think it was a smart thing for Cotto to do because I think at the time Margarito perhaps was on his way out, so he got his victory, he's got his revenge, and it's done. But Margarito popping up now in this whole Mexican Puerto Rican thing, it's an interesting one as well. So we'll look at the fight itself. I think Canelo is likely to be too much for Cotto, and I'm a huge Cotto fan. I've been to see Cotto fight live in New York. I bumped into him last year, I think it was. Got a picture. I did fangirl stuff. Got pictures with him. Super excited. He's one of my favourite fighters. But I have to be realistic and say I think Canelo's going to be too much for him. I think he's too big for him. One, his age will play a factor as well. I think a lot of people have read too much into Cotto under Roach, thinking, "Oh, he's back." You have to look at who he's fought. I think Sergio Martinez was on his way out. I think Daniel Gill didn't look right. I think at full blown, I think they fought at catch weight. Full blown fighting at his weight would have been a different story. Canelo, I've seen pictures of Canelo and he looks sharp, he looks trim, he looks like he's ready as well. And it's a bit worrying for me because I don't want to see Cotto get beaten up like the way he did against Margarita. And I think there's a very good chance for that. You look at Canelo's last fight against James Kirkland, and what he did to Kirkland was nothing short of amazing. I think he really, really hurt him. And obviously Kirkland can be hurt. We've seen it before with Angulo Perez, but he weathered what Canelo did with him is that he weathered the storm with him, and then he blew him out of there. And it was only a matter of rounds, but he looked very good in doing that as well. And it's not just like it wasn't just that fight you'd pick him off. Obviously, he struggled semi with Erislandy Lara, but he got eked out a split decision. And I think him in there with a decent boxer is impressive because he won that fight. And then obviously he had the Alfredo Angulo fight as well, where he just basically picked him off, beat him up, and got the stoppage as well. Cotto can cut. You've seen it before. He cuts up easily. He did it with Pacquiao. He bleeds a lot, and he can be prone to take punishment if his corner aren't willing to step in enough. I think at his age, you don't want to see him taking the kind of beating that he could possibly take on Saturday. Cotto's always said that this is just a job for me. I've got to be here for my family. So I think if the pressure starts getting too much from him there, there's a very good chance he might turn around and say, "Do you know what, mate? I'm gonna get out of this one." And that's nothing against Cotto. I think Cotto deserves praise because he's pretty much fought everybody that stood in front of him. He's never ducked anyone. Obviously, they ask him after his fights. They ask him about Golovkin, given that he's the middleweight champion, and he will turn around and say he's been hesitant, but he has said, "Okay, I will fight him." Do you know what I mean? Whereas with Canelo, when they ask him, he starts talking about, I'm only fighting him at this weight. I'm not this size. But Cotto will turn around and say, "I'm not a middleweight, but yeah, I will fight him." So you got to give Cotto praise, but I just think this isn't the right fight for him. I wouldn't fancy Cotto against Canelo or Golovkin. I think he's done bits and pieces as a middleweight, but I think he's a middleweight in name only. He's not big enough to vote for the 160 pound division. I think that's why a lot of his fights are like catch weights now. He's fought a couple catch weight fights in recently. I think his fight with Gill was a catch weight. His fight with Finger was a catch weight as well. So it's not ideal him fighting someone as strong as Canelo. But Cotto, he can box. He has power as well. If he digs that left hook to the body, anything can happen. We're not going to write Cotto off completely because it's actually a decent fight, or will be a decent fight early on. I think perhaps Canelo takes over later on, but I think whilst it's competitive, it will be exciting. Cotto he's no mug, he's no fool. He's experienced as well, and having Roach in his corner also gives him a chance as well. I think Cotto needs to be aggressive, but temper his aggression as well. So if he's fighting spurts, don't stand there and trade. Pretty much fight how he fought against Margarito in the first 6 or 7 rounds, I think it was. Hit, move off, get away, don't trade with him, because Canelo trades, he puts his punches together well and he hits hard as well. You don't want to get hit with too many of his shots, so put your punches together, get out of there. Put your punches together, get out of there. That's pretty much how Cotto needs to fight. Make sure he digs to the body, because Canelo's been known to tire later on as well. So if he digs his left hook to that body, keeps banking on his body work, and then later on catches him when he's tired, anything could happen. But I think you're looking like a mid early. I wouldn't go early. I'd say you're looking mid rounds, mid stoppage for Canelo, and it hurts me to pick against Cotto. It hurts me to pick him to lose by KO as well, even more. But I just think realistically, this is a fight too far for Cotto, and I think this may be his last fight as well. I don't see any reason for him to carry on after this as well. He's won titles at 140, 147, 154, and now 160 as well. So that's a four division champion. I think he's the first Puerto Rican to do that as well. So yeah, all praise to him, kudos to him. But I just don't think he needs any more. He needs to do any more. Obviously we've got a couple big fights coming up in the coming weeks as well. Talk of David Haye coming back, which adds to the fact that Tyson Fury is fighting. Tyson Fury is fighting Vladimir Klitschko next week. Well, it will be on the week after the 21st, so that'll be the 28th. And I think that's been an interesting one, and be looking at it, build up to it, and you can really see Tyson Fury's getting under Vladimir Klitschko's skin. But in the same breath, Vlad isn't taking him very seriously. I watched their face off today, and I think he's just looking at him like he's a clown. What is this guy doing? He pretty much will do all his talking in the ring. And I've been one of the people that I've picked against Vlad, and I'm probably going to regret this, but I just feel like perhaps him having his kid, the fact that he's older than him, and the fact Tyson Fury isn't a bad fighter. I think a lot of people pick against Tyson Fury as a bad fighter, and he's not a bad fighter in this at all. And he's bigger than Vlad as well. And I think these things may add up. You know, they say everybody gets old, and I think this may be the fight that Vlad showed that he's got old. Obviously, he struggled with Bryant Jennings. He hasn't looked great recently, and I think Vlad is one of the great heavyweight champions. A lot of people don't like him. They think he's boring. I think he's amazing to watch, especially if you actually enjoy boxing. It's amazing to watch his jabs. Something of it's ridiculous. His jabs like a listing jab, just listing jab. Or you look at Larry Holmes, who had another great jab as well, and I think his jab's up in that class. Strong, hard, hits you. He can set up defense. He can use it. He can set up his offense and use it as defense as well. And I think he needs to establish that. Then also you're looking at, you've got Billy Joe Saunders versus Andy Lee. You've got Peter Quillin versus Danny Jacobs coming up as well. Obviously, you've got your Anthony Joshua and Dillian White coming up as well. So we've got a couple of decent cards. I think everything's really kicking off this weekend. Obviously, we had Golovkin and Thingy. Golovkin and what's his name? Completely gone out of my head. You know what I'm talking about. You had Golovkin, obviously his win a couple of weeks ago, and there was a little gap. Obviously, Timothy Bradley fought in that space. Golovkin and Lemieux, that's it. Yeah, we had a little gap in that. Timothy Bradley fought in that space, and now I think things are really picking up before the end of the year, and the end of the year is going to go off in it with a bang. But yeah, that's my show for today. So that's my picks. I said Crawler, but I wouldn't surprise if Darlie Perez won, and I'm going with Canelo by stoppage, which is pretty sad. But yeah, that's my show for today. Remember to send us your texts, send us your tweets if you have anything you want us to discuss. Even if you've got any points, if you think I'm a dickhead and you think I'm chatting shit and Tyson Fury is going to get bombed out, make sure you let me know, innit? Also, be sure to keep your eye out on the Twitter account and follow us at BTW Online. Follow at Yannick Noir. He's got about 1 million ats, so I don't even know which one he's using at the minute. Be sure to follow me as well at Black Gatsby. And that's my show, yeah. I might do one next week before the Fury Klitschko if anything else develops. I think there's going to be a bit more given that it's fight week and Tyson Fury is probably going to act a fool. But yeah, don't forget to send me your tweets and all that. And if anything does develop, I'll probably record a new one. So you'll probably hear from me, if not this week, then the week after. But yeah, thanks for listening. Signing out.